Tougen no Fue, or the Tougen Flute. This one's actually pretty interesting conceptually.
Debuting during Yamiwo Terasumono's run, the Tougen Flute lacks most of the prior cast members of the series. Ryusei Konishi had signed off from playing Koga, Rei Fujita's own spin-off Zero Blackblood was in development, but there were still some cast members that hadn't gotten much spotlight, making this an obvious route of exploration. Since there had been so much on the knights, it was good to give some time to the priests. Thus, Keita Amemiya came up with a story focusing around Yasue Sato's Jabi and Mary Matsuyama's Rekka.
And yeah, that was most of its appeal right there. It was a spin-off centered around two of the supporting women of a tokusatsu drama. It's almost unheard of to see such a thing. Ninja spent the majority of its run being sexist to its female cast members, including that V-Cinema. That doesn't count. That movie was terrible and you know it. Okay, you got me there. But from its trailers, that one was obviously more about the gore and seeing them in such a crisis. Not so much them having their own adventure where they alone are the heroes removed from anything else going on, tied to the regular cast they're part of. I haven't seen Space Squad Episode 0 yet, I filmed this episode before it released. Though I do have good hopes for it.
And yes, I know of the later produced Biku movie as well. Not seen it, but I've heard good things about it.
But the point is, it gave these two a chance to shine on their own, and capitalized on it in a few ways for character expansion.
Which begins with Rekka and Jabi training a Makai priest tandem attack that, sadly, Rekka has yet to master.
They're going to use this at the end of the movie, aren't they?
She wants to keep trying, but Jabi calls it a day, saying that using the spell while tired has led to priests killing themselves. And with how she's headed back to Kantai, it might not be best to do so while exhausted.
I presume, from what we know about the whole unending war with the horrors, that this was a tandem attack created to counter and banish a horror back in the ye olden days. And with the whole Goryu Ganon-possessed idea and marked for death Makai Knight mess settled now, there's probably been a resurgence in sentiments that priests should do their part and not just fester jealousy towards the knights and whatnot.
Granted, these two are those that value the role of knights, and for Rekka, who strives to be a knight among priests, it's clear why she would have a drive to continue to grow stronger, which Jabi is trying to temper so it doesn't consume her on accident.
Oh, and timeline-wise, should probably mention that this occurs concurrently with Sokoku no Maru, concluding before the end of that film. The only reason I did it second was, I'm trying to go in release order, more or less.
And because I've kind of been working my way back while watching the more current series of Garo, I kind of get a deja vu moment with Rekka here to how she acts towards Kagome in Zero Dragon Blood. There, showing more of how she's matured from the more impulsive priest she was only a few years before.
Though by that same token of how I've now seen everything with Rekka in it, her characterization in the film seems kind of off.
Not that it's out of character for her to be quick to act and decide on a course of action she chooses to see through, but that it seems she's more reckless than before. While we saw some of this of her in Red Requiem, she never acted alone, and there was a more active impetus for that recklessness tied to the horror karma, well, being tied to her dad's death. With that now behind her, she seemed to be far more level-headed when she was part of Makai Senki. So with her in this movie, it feels like they're revisiting a character flaw that previous material has shown her to have grown past.
Or because she was a minor returning character in Makai Senki, they just didn't have the room in the narrative and direction to address that element of her at the time due to the focuses on the bigger situations. But it makes it seem as if Rekka and Jabi are less than equals.
I mean, yeah, Rekka is here to learn from Jabi, but to put it in the words of another teacher...
Yeah, it feels like it reaches that at points. I understand why it's here, to invoke character growth, but as I keep coming back to, it feels like they did this already better in Red Requiem.
Anyways, Rekka gets going, letting Jabi return to training younger priests, with a cameo from a grown-up Rin, Tsubasa's sister from Byakugan no Maju. And Jabi has her take over training the younglings, as another woman comes to her with a mission from the Senate, needing her to come as an escort to the Northern Forest. Likewise, as Rekka takes a break on her journey, she's visited by another woman named Magi, who speaks with the pronoun boku to refer to herself, denoting a masculine attitude towards herself to parallel Rekka's own more mannish self-image. Magi proceeds to openly flirt with her, while showing Rekka the titular Tougen flute, which leads the other woman, named Agi, to exposit for Jabi what it is, an ancient artifact made by the priest Sogen, which has the power to either banish horrors or empower the—
Wait a second, that's the Serpent's Tail Shengon Wu!
Serpent's Tail!
Dear God, I made a Shaolin Showdown reference in 2017. I feel old!
Anyways, yeah, it's been locked away for so long as it can serve as a double-edged sword.
Incidentally, why do we keep leaving the world-threatening artifacts just lying around in shows like this? Season 1 had Basai's book in a library, the horse lab containing Eris was in an open room, Radam and Goldstorm admittedly had protections keeping it sealed, so subverts this, but then there was the Makai Dragon Egg just left out in the open at a dumping ground of other Makai artifacts.
Agi asks for the escort so she could safely seal the flute, but she doesn't have the flute, sending undead minions to claim it from Magi, which gets Rekka involved when they attack her as well. Magi skewered on a sword as it makes clear these two women are quarreling over it. The implication from this initially is Magi sees it as a useful tool while Agi sees it as a danger, both describing the other as a priest that has fallen to the darkness, to convince their respective ally into helping them.
Now, something odd I noticed all throughout this film is, well, Magi. Specifically her speech. It very rarely matches the movement of her lips, and at times her dialogue is noticeably louder than others in the same scene.
Best guess for why that is may be that they needed to overdub her dialogue, as from what I found, Miku Ono is not the best of performers. Thus, that was likely needed to salvage what, without audio, are some pretty awful line reads.
See, her upper body's not moving enough to show the expectation of that kind of rapid breathing. Her performance is not matching with the sounds we are hearing that are coming from her, and I just realized how dirty that all sounded.
So, yeah, I ended up getting this weird cognitive dissonance between her portrayed actions and what she's saying in any given scene. Though as Rekka helps Maki recover from getting speared, she turns her flirting with Rekka up several notches. But Rekka makes it clear she's not interested.
I could have told you that.
After getting the flute from her minions, Agi and Jabi arrive at the shrine, making to steal it, only for all their guards to be disabled by the arriving Rekka.
I'd play the Space is Warped in Time is Bendable clip, but there has been shown something of a passage of time through the changes in lighting.
Rather than stealing the flute, but amidst that, we got sign of what the flute actually is. Sogen's arm. And it's cursed.
Great! Now we need to rush back to the quest NPC in Helheim. I still haven't unlocked flying in the Broken Isles.
Agi tries to convince Jabi that Rekka's the priestess fallen to darkness wanting to use the power of the flute, attempting to play it off Rekka's prior insistence on getting stronger, with this thus seeming as a shortcut to power from the perspective she's been given. But Jabi refuses to believe that, hinging on their relationship of teacher and student.
I leave that be, but a ridiculous number of series showcase that dynamic actually makes the teacher the most blind individual with regards to the character flaws and sins of their students that they should have sought to correct before they commit horrible atrocities. Star Wars, Naruto, repeatedly, it's like an endless cycle in there. My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. Hell, Chapter of the Black Wolf had that with Barago.
The second part of that is a better basis, that they both have a mutual connection to Kouga, and Kouga is not that bad a judge of character. Still, it's nice that she has faith and trust in her friend, tracking her down with intent to get a full explanation from Rekka's side of the story, only to find and fight Magi, with her in turn stabbed in the gut again, by a magically flying ceremonial axe and flying by Agi, in such a way and with such timing that Rekka then arrives in the scene with Jabi over Magi's body, and Rekka does not have the same blind faith in Jabi.
I both like and hate this. Being more skeptical in a situation such as this where neither side has a full picture, it's smart. The situation itself, however, gives me flashbacks to Toshike Inui's writing without Rekka immediately pounces on the idea that Jabi's gone evil without letting her get a word in to defend herself, when Jabi was trying herself to give Rekka that benefit of the doubt. Then again, standing over a dead body is usually grounds in fiction for people to jump to conclusions, and she does still have the personal stigmas of that being what happened with Akaza in Red Requiem.
I presume this is also supposed to be built off of that idea left behind from the first scene, that Rekka thinks Jabi is intentionally holding back her development as a priest, since Rekka is very capable in her own right. Hell, in Dragon Blood, she's responsible for killing the title antagonist when Rei struggled to match him. So this distrust in turn could also be simply her own personal frustrations with Jabi having the absolute worst possible outlet in a tense situation where they're being turned on each other.
That, and since this occurs not long after Makai Senki, the whole debacle with Sigma is still likely on people's mind and frayed the ideas of trust, faith, and loyalty that is still in the process of being mended. So, yeah, this movie keeps playing off of things that frustrate me as a critic, fan of this media, and with regards to my personal tastes, but in ways that are actually to the film's credit and play off of character nuances. This is how you avoid compounding an error while making your media nuanced.
Still, as I said earlier, it really doesn't help that this whole situation keeps making it seem as if Rekka's a damn fool with how the film frames how she reacts to things. Thus, even with all these rationalizations, this scene structurally did not work for me. But as the two priests fight, Magi wises from her grave alongside Agi, as this was actually the two's plan all along. Draw out the power of the flute from someone who could see Sogen's bones as a flute, and then another priest through which they could craft an eighth note to be played through it.
7つ目の紋章烈火の絶望の証
I'd say her final hope has her covered on that, but right around this time I think Koga was in the midst of a tea party with the memory thief.
Rekka breaks off due to the pain she's getting from the seals, all alone in this forest, with no one knowing where she is.
Rekka!
Shiguto? The hell is he doing here?
Well, apparently Shiguto knew Rekka was headed back to Kantai, so decided to try and intercept her so she'd have company, and as a result, helps her recover.
Great, as if we didn't have enough people flirting with Mary Matsuyama.
Still, it's odd that Shiguto even got in this area, for as Jabi discovers when she tries to send a message to Rin, there's a barrier up preventing anything being sent in or out. Also reinforced by Rin with, I presume, some type of scrying apparatus, trying and failing to relay a message to her about Agi's Senate mission being utterly faked. The trees go evil dead on us.
Please let there be no wood tentacle rape in this movie.
Restraining Rekka as Agi appears and attempts to recycle their con game on Shiguto, the whole thing a ploy to knock him out when his guard drops. The girls haul Rekka to another shrine, Maggie shown to have severe health issues which are motivating their actions.
Well, yeah, you stabbed her with a sword and defenestrated her intestines twice. People usually die when they are killed like that.
We're shown Rekka being stripped and bound in cloth, with the scene staging things to then give us full frontal focus on Mary Matsuyama's ass.
Stay classy, Amamiya.
But yeah, deception over. They need Rekka to play the flute, which doesn't actually do any of the crap they said it did. It is in fact part of a complex seal restraining Higari, an extremely powerful Makai priest who went insane in ages past, and Sogen killed himself locking her away. All left of him the arm he plunged into her.
Not like that.
この骨が笛に見える胞子7つの音色を生み出す桃源の笛
つまり烈火君こそが選ばれた胞子
And this is why I'm glad I'm tone deaf when it comes to actually playing musical instruments.
So yeah, because of her music affinity, Rekka was able to see the flute, and now those seals across her body are expressions of its power, that they can now break by transferring seal-breaking balls into her, and yet again I realize how dirty that sounds.
Because damn it, everything is gay about this. I'm getting sick of saying that this year.
But with the 7 sealing notes disabled, all that's left is the 8th note. The Death Note. Meaning all they need is a Makai priest to kill, And Hikari is free! Free to give the girls immortality! Oh, hi, Jabi. Yeah, she frees Rekka with the resurgence in Magi's illness, making the Agis retreat for now.
Magi!
Yeah, as someone that has coughed up blood before, doesn't look like that.
In withdrawing, they contact Higari in hopes she can give them more time to complete their end of the bargain. And as they are 85% there, Higari acquiesces and fixes Magi up so they can go and kill Jabi.
Question. Why didn't they just kill Rekka for the last note? They keep saying they need 2 priests, one to form the flute, and one to give the death note. But since they already turned a priest into the flute, shouldn't they be able to get that last note from the priest they're using as the flute? I mean, Sogen obviously did that, since his arm is the flute, so is there a tangible reason why you couldn't do that?
Regardless, Jabi forms a barrier around the building so she can focus on getting those orbs, the seal, and their influence out of Rekka. Shiguto also working to delay the Agis, since he can't really do anything to help.
Well, to be fair, it was 2-on-1 and he didn't have his Goryu. This makes me question why he didn't go on a training trip, as he clearly needs it.
Jabi only managed to get half the orbs out before they jump her, leaving the rest to be dealt with in Rekka's soul by a manifestation of her father, Kenji.
And you see what I mean about this movie just retreading Red Requiem, with that film also having her dad appear as part of an 11th hour salvation moment?
In a way, though, it can be seen as returning the favor, since in Red Requiem he was awoken and saved by her flute playing inside Karma. Thus him coming in here isn't that out of place. But again, what he says to her all feels like they're sentiments that were covered in the prior movie.
強くなったな。お前は俺の誇りだ。俺の大切な娘だ。お前は決して一人じゃない。そして俺はいつもお前と共にある。
So, yeah, Rekka's fixed up, coming to Jabi's rescue, with the two now working perfectly in tandem, and overwhelming the Agis.
二刀流か。俺の知り合いにもそんな奴がいるよ。
The priest magic duel here is a pretty effective one in showing the various skills of the craft, once more accenting Keita and Mamiya's creative vision on things like this, only for it to be broken up when Higari's time extension runs out, and our heroes realize they did this so they could avoid their coming deaths.
自分の命のために他人の命を顧みない。お前それでも奉仕か。
Well, they could do what Funimation did and call themselves Makai Alchemists. And yes, that is the absolute dumbest change scene of the Garo anime's dub. What the hell, Funimation?
But with Magi realizing she's screwed either way, she comes to the conclusion, hey, they don't actually need Jabi to die to get the death notes. Any priest would do.
This is actually something foreshadowed with her mannerisms as well, all of them having a recurring theme of infidelity.
Thus, it was no surprise that, on a choice of her lover or her life, she tricks Agi into choosing life. Namely, hers.
早く僕に永遠の命を。
約束通り。
And Evil Boss Backstab in 3, 2, 1.
Serpent's tail!
Reversing mirror.
Huh. You used the wrong clip. The thing looks like one of the idiotic Falsi from the Fabinov Crystallis games. Thank God Lightning Ferret isn't here. She'd end up making this thing win by losing.
So does this qualify as incoming message from the big giant head? Or should I be calling up Star Fox to deal with Andros? Genova here backs Rekka and Jabi into a corner, but with tensions high, the trust rekindled between them, and the calming of spirit the heart-to-heart with Dad resulted in, Rekka masters the combination technique, birthing from their pooled magic one massive phoenix which one-shots Higari, destroying her, the flute, and the threat from ever emerging again. The pair showing among them a moment that, yeah, I'm gonna leave that alone.
Rekka!
And you were completely useless in this, Shiguto, but hey, you get a paycheck either way. The trio lay the remains of the Agis to rest at the shrine, Rekka ruminating on her father's words, and ready to take the next steps in her existence as a priest with a greater clarity and calmness of mind. But, since Jabi is now in the Kantai region anyways, might as well go and see the results of the final round of that night tournament. Rekka following, and leaving Shiguto once more as the unnecessary included butt monkey of the final act of the film.
Tougen no Fue, it's alright.
I'm glad we got this spotlight with the two characters as, well, Jabi got stiffed in Chapter of the Black Wolf, and both were minor recurring characters of Makai Senki despite them being likable individuals. But the storyline for it is a bit predictable with where you see it going and the resultant dynamics in play. Turning Rekka into a victim, I'm not entirely sure was the right path to take due to my conflicting thoughts on her characterization throughout this piece, but likewise it would have been wrong to reverse the situation and have Rekka show her mettle in saving Jabi since, well, we already had a movie whose first act was about saving Jabi, so it would have been a bad idea to force a second one on her. Hell, with how she helps Rekka in this, in some ways it could be considered passing the favor on forward. Despite my concern about Miku Olno's acting, the two Agis do play well off of each other, and their plan is pretty well done for what it is, and how they repeatedly prevent Rekka and Jabi from speaking to the other to clear it up is pretty well balanced. But did we really need Shiguto in the final act? He didn't really add anything to events, and it more felt like they included him to be a butt monkey and pad out the runtime. Especially since they keep doing that to him. Hell, Rin would have actually been more appropriate since she had a cameo at the beginning of the film, did that one thing with relaying a message, and otherwise did nothing. Despite the implication of her appearance being she's grown since Byakuya no Maju into a capable priest in her own right, albeit not one with much experience or combat potential, so would more befit someone being quickly curb-stomped than someone with actual combat experience, and would have still fit the film's main motive of this being the women cast members being given the spotlight to kick ass.
I don't know, I just don't feel like you should use a character as a butt monkey unless they're shown to deserve it, which rarely happens with those turned into them. But yeah, while this is an entirely skippable movie with regards to the series, it isn't a bad time for the hour it runs for. Next month, however, when we actually get to the proper Garo series review of the year, things are going to get a bit more polarizing as, well, we run into the first one that I've been told has been popularly nominated for Worst Entry, and it's the only remaining one that I have not seen. This is not going to be fun.